The views expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Of Insights. I'm your host, Felina Jones, and today we will be talking about the effects that fathers have on their children. And joining me now is Lee Fitzpatrick, who is the Parent Involvement Coordinator at Alpena High School. Thanks for joining me, Lee.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Right, and so the month of February has been deemed by Governor Snyder as Responsible Fatherhood Awareness Month. Why is that so important to bring to our community?
Well, our community does struggle with a lot of single-parent families, and we have, in Governor Snyder's release, and of course with our everyday experience, we're aware that an array of social problems arise out of the fact when fathers have children and aren't involved in their lives.
Mm-hmm. And why is it so important for children to have that kind of fathership role in their life?
Well, research shows us, and the governor kind of details it in his release, research shows us that almost every societal problem has some root in unstable parenting. Mm-hmm. And so fathers, particularly this month, but you know, a child needs a stable foundation at home, whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm. And for children that don't have that at home, what are some of the consequences and things that we see that affect them in their life?
Well, obviously, as a school district, our primary concern revolves around lower academic outcomes. And there's a much higher dropout rate for students, high school dropouts. There's a much higher rate for teen pregnancy. And so right there, that's the start of a lot of problems for our community. And so the reason it's so important is because research shows that children do better when they're in a stable home, not just with a father in the home, but a father involved in their lives, wherever he may live. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And students and children that don't have that in their life constantly, how does that affect them socially?
Well, some of the research that we looked at says that they have lower academic attainment levels, again, higher dropout levels, higher teen pregnancy levels, higher incidence of usage of substance abuse, and really almost every problem that a school district deals with on a day-to-day basis mm-hmm.
Has
some foundation in that issue.
And how do school districts kind of try to combat those issues?
Well, as a school district, there's a lot of things that we can do. You know, we do a great job with kids every day. Teachers, whether they be male or female, are a positive adult mentor relationship in children's lives. And so a lot of times as a teacher stepping up to the plate, we've got wonderful principals in our buildings that many times are kind of a surrogate parent. Mm-hmm. We also have the School Success Program. And School Success is an in-school social worker that's there to help support and build more stable families. Everything gets better in terms of issues that we deal with when the family is more stable. And then, of course, myself, I work every day to try and make this process, which can be very confusing for families, be a little bit easier to get through the educational process.
Right, absolutely. And social issues like these are not only specific to maybe this generation, but it's really a generational thing of if maybe they didn't have parents going into the future, it would kind of come back full circle.
Yeah, well, obviously the circle of poverty is generational, and this is one major rung in that ladder. We know that when a young man grows up, hasn't really had that influence in his life, hasn't had a stable parenting foundation, It doesn't have to just be a father. We've got wonderful single mothers and single fathers in our community that are doing a heroic job. We have many grandparents that are raising kids, and so they really need some stable adult in their life. And sometimes that's a school staff worker, or sometimes it's someone else in their life. Wonderful people in our area at the Salvation Army that runs kids programs. Boys and Girls Club does a great job with kids in our community. And so kids need someone. They need an adult to be a foundational adult in their life, and they do so much better when that's the case.
And when that happens, that really kind of breaks the cycle.
It helps to, because when it doesn't happen, then that young man that grew up without that influence in his life tends to become a father, and he tends to become a father much earlier than they should, and again, without the skills that fatherhood requires to be successful. No, they haven't been exposed to a positive fatherhood role.
And how are some other ways that we can kind of build up the family foundation without maybe a father being present?
Well, again, we've got a lot of wonderful support in this community. That fatherhood role might be a grandfather. We've got some wonderful grandparents that are stepping up and helping in a situation where the parent's not able to take on that mission. It could be a pastor at your church, could be a mentor that they meet through youth programs like we have at the Boys and Girls Club, at Salvation Army, at maybe a sporting coach. There's so many people in our community that care about kids and do things to help. The important part is that the child have an opportunity to connect with someone like that.
Absolutely. And even though statistics say some children are at a disadvantage if they don't have a father present, it really is a person-to-person basis.
Well, that's very important, Valina, that we make sure that kids know you're not a statistic. If a statistic says 3 out of 4 people will fail in this situation, there's a fourth person, and that fourth person made choices and determined their own fate and was able to move forward. There's never a situation where it's just over. People need to feel empowered to be able to rise above situations and always know that there's people here that want to help them to do that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Lee. After the break, we'll talk about the economic impacts that we have with children that may not have a father present in the household. Welcome back from the break, everyone. Before we left you, we were talking about the social impacts on children who have an absent father in their lives, but it's really about a cycle of poverty, too. We were talking about what are some of the factors that are put on children without a father?
Well, in the governor's proclamation, he talked about higher incidence of drug use, higher likelihood of incarceration, higher teen pregnancy rates, and higher rates of high school dropouts. And so those are really the entry ramps onto future poverty. Those are the ways that people get themselves into the worst situations. And so in order to break that cycle, if lack of fatherhood is a major player in that cycle, then it's important for us as a community to have the expectation that those who give birth to children will father them. And that's really the start of building an off-ramp from poverty.
Right, because with all of these different factors that are influenced by a lack of a fatherhood figure in a child's life, I mean, it's very costly in the long run in terms of, like you said, teen pregnancy and drug abuse. What are some of those kind of expenditures? Well,
one study shows us that in terms of high school dropout rates, if we can improve our high school dropout rate as a country by just 1%, we'll save over $1 billion per year, because 75% of the people that are incarcerated in our system right now are high school dropouts. So 3 out of every 4 have made that one mistake, and that's led them down a path to incarceration. So on that alone, we have the potential to save billions of dollars if we can greatly reduce our high school dropout rate. $1 billion per 1%.
Right, that's huge. And also within high school dropouts, the income that they're receiving back in is at a disadvantage as well.
High school dropouts are going to make over $9,000 per year less than the person that sat next to them in the desk in high school and finished high school. So you're really setting yourself up to have a much more difficult struggle going forward economically.
Which presents issues of welfare and that kind of thing. That also adds to the poverty cycle as well.
Yeah, the societal costs, if there's, when you add them all up, tremendous amount of resources are going out to help people who have found themselves in this situation. So obviously intervention at the front of the cycle, keeping kids in school, avoiding teen pregnancy, avoiding teen substance abuse, avoiding juvenile delinquency that leads to incarceration. If we can help reduce that at the school level, it really benefits our society tremendously.
And where does it really start? You say at the school level. At what kind of age is the best time to really grab a hold of this issue?
Well, obviously the cycle begins whenever a father decides to not be part of that child's life. So very early, sooner than we get to them. But I think it's as a community, when we have sons, going and saying to them, this is not a responsibility that it's an option to avoid. If you have a child, you raise a child, and you have to provide them with the knowledge and the ability to do that. And so that's how you break that cycle. Having children wait till they're ready, and when they are ready, having parented them so that they have the skills to parent their own.
Right, because also we were talking about the increase in teen pregnancy in homes that don't have a father present.
Teen pregnancy rates are much higher when there's not a father involved in the house, and it's so important to note that the father doesn't necessarily have to be in that household. They need to be involved in their kids' lives. So if circumstances led to a separation of a couple, that does not mean that they can't be a vital part of that child's life. And we found out that teen pregnancy efforts have reduced the rates of teen pregnancy in a lot of our country. And again, $8.4 billion per year are in reduced costs due to effectively reducing teen pregnancy rate.
Right, which is great because it's also, like we said, it's all about the circle of poverty. And when we reduce these things, not only is more substance, more cost efficiency coming back to our society, but it's also helping the generations.
Productivity in our economy is very important. And then on the other side, the amount of money that's pulled out of our economy to try and help play catch up with families that have gone through this lack of stability. And as we said, the full spectrum of societal ills have roots in failure by fathers to father their children.
And here locally, what kind of changes are we seeing within our own community of maybe a decline in teen pregnancy or the increase of fathers being involved in their children's lives?
Well, I think it's not something that we have a handle on today, but it's a battle that needs to be fought. And so I think part of the governor's idea of declaring this Responsible Father Awareness Month for February was to put it on the radar. This is a problem that's not going away and that needs to be dealt with for so many reasons, the most important of which is each one of these children is getting put in a very difficult situation by the lack of that guidance.
Right, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Well, we'll have more after the break. Welcome back from the break, everybody. Joining me now is Chris Ruby, who is the PAC president at Hinks. Thanks for joining me today, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So right off the bat, for people who don't know, what is the responsibility of the PAC president?
Well, essentially we try and coordinate, with the other members of the PAC, involve parents, involve some of the teachers and staff are fairly involved, both as parents and as teachers. And we try and bridge the gap between what the school can and will do for the students and do what we can do to try and make things better in terms of helping with additional funding for small projects or sometimes larger projects. We've been involved in trying to bring some of the new technology to Hinks in terms of funding some fundraisers. running some fundraisers so that we can get some iPads so that the kids can have advantage of those in the classroom, because clearly the way things are going is technology, and just rugs for the kindergarten rooms and different things like that, where we can do the fundraising and kind of make their lives easier, and try and help out the staff, and Principal James out there is fantastic, and we try and help him out whenever we can to have parents involved when they have projects and when they have events at the school, and try and be there and do what we can do to make their lives easier.
Right, and why is it so important to get that parent involvement?
Well, the more the parents are involved and more parents are at the school, I think it has two effects, really. Number one, like I said, it takes a lot of pressure off the staff to try and, rather than them trying to do everything. And clearly in this day and age with, funds are always at a premium. And so, anything we can do, incrementally, just helps them be able to do, more on the educational side. And then I think also that the more parents are there, the more their involved parents are. It benefits the kids because they see that mom and dad know what's going on, and mom and dad are helping, and it becomes kind of ingrained in them that you should be there. You should be trying to put forth an effort to try and help your kids and help other kids.
Mm-hmm. And the PAC organization actually helps put on activities as well, correct?
That's correct. In fact, we have about a week, 10 days, we have our family dance, which last year we did a daddy-daughter dance, which was absolutely phenomenal and just a great time. And then this year we're expanding it out for those, because there's some families with non-traditional style families, and we want to make sure that it's inclusive as it could be, and try and get as many people there. And then we do we'll have a laser tag event where same kind of thing. Last year was a mother-son deal, and this year we're expanding it out for whoever wants to do that. And the last day blast, we call it, on the last day of school, where we have a dunk tank and snow cones and all kinds of activities for the kids. And all of those, PAC does movie nights where we'll just get a movie and go in the gym, and we'll sell popcorn and pizza, and the kids can sit on the floor and watch a movie, and just try and kind of keep the kind of a community atmosphere and make sure that we're doing our part to make the school and the school year enjoyable for the kids too.
Absolutely, sounds fantastic. And with February being Responsible Fatherhood Awareness Month, why are some of these activities just so important to get the family involved?
Well, from the point of view of someone who, I consider myself a pretty involved, pretty active father, I take it, very seriously, my responsibility of raising my girls, and I want to make sure that, someday when they look back, they don't ever say, their dad cheated them of the effort. So I think that if you get, the more parents you get involved, it has a snowball effect. That you realize that not only are you doing it for your kids, but you have fun doing it, and you meet other parents. And like I said, the dance last year was so much fun. And you'd think that the dads, at a daddy-daughter dance would have been hugging the wall, but they weren't. They were out there dancing with their girls, and it was just a fun time. And it just, the more I think, both mothers and fathers, but the more the kids see that you're involved, the more they feel like it's okay to do these things, and we should try and do these things, and it just makes for more well-rounded families, I think.
And over the years, the gender role has really changed within the family. I mean, mothers are more. It used to be that mothers would stay home with the children, and now it's more acceptable for women to be in the career fields, and predominant career fields at that. How has the gender roles kind of affected the family unit?
Sure, that's a great point. I think that you don't have to go back too far. I've got a few years on you, but I don't have to go back too far even from that to where mom stayed at home and dad went to work and mom raised the kids, and that was accepted. My own family, my mom she worked outside the home, but still, essentially the child raising was defaulted to her, and that it was normal, and that nobody blinked an eye. And now I think as the women are more involved in the workforce, I think that it's becoming more and more common and really more and more necessary for the fathers to assume a role in the child rearing, and I think that kind of speaks to a couple things. And I think one thing is it takes a strong unit. Clearly there's a lot of non-traditional families out there and a lot of one-parent households, and they don't have the benefit of having that second person there. But for the families that do, you can't afford to have one person not be involved. If you do that, I think you're cheating your kids. And I think it takes a strong woman to allow essentially her corner of the world there of the child rearing to allow somebody else into that picture. And I'm fortunate enough. I had a strong mom. I have a strong wife, and they both are perfectly fine with that. And it benefits me because it allows me to be a bigger part of my kid's life.
And why is it so important for parents to take both equal responsibility and not have it just lay on one person?
Well, I think it allows for a greater flexibility, and it allows your kids to see that, it's, you don't have to, mom isn't the only one that can cook. Mom doesn't have to do the laundry, and I think it allows your kids, I have 2 girls, but, for boys too, it would allow them to see that, both mom and dad can do anything, and they should choose to do it. And then it makes the household run more smoothly, frees up the time to do things, and basically teaches them that, you should be an equal partnership, and you should be, trying to work together so that your family can be better, rather than worrying about, who's cutting the lawn or who's, making dinner.
And for families that do have kind of that 2-parent household and that support, how does that affect children in terms of growing up and seeing kind of what they can aspire to be in terms of a family?
I think it gives them the ability to see that because they're not tied down to one specific role, because they're not defined by their gender, I think it allows them the freedom to see, hey, you know what, I can do whatever I want to do. I can be an airline pilot, or I can be, I can run a beauty salon, or I can, be a doctor, and they're not defined by their gender as far as what roles they have to choose. They see that it's perfectly okay for, men to do it, everything, and women to do everything, and that the earlier they see that, the earlier they realize that, the less they're ever burdened with the thought of, I can't do that because I'm a girl, or I can't do that because I'm a boy, and then you avoid some of those issues later in life.
And having parent involvement in a child's life throughout all ages is so important, and mentors as well. What are some resources that we have here right in our community to help out with that?
Well, I think we're very fortunate here in Alpena to have NEMSCA is a great organization, Great Start does a lot of good work, Partners for Change, Catholic Human Services. There's just, the list goes on of different organizations and different people that are really out there trying to make a difference for kids and for parents. And, if you benefit the parents, you benefit the kids, and a lot of times vice versa. So I think we're just fortunate enough that we have those resources in our community, and there's people really out there trying to do the right thing every day.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Well, that'll wrap up this edition of Insights. You can catch us back here next Sunday. Have a good one.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.